Hi, you're listening to a student-focused episode of the Sociology Show podcast. If you're studying the subject at GCSE, A-level, foundation, degree, or any other discipline, then this podcast could be of help to you. If you have a question for the show, then you can email the Sociology Show podcast at gmail.com, and one of the teachers, lecturers, examiners, or experts will answer your question for you. You can sponsor the show on the GoFundMe page and subscribe on all the usual podcast platforms. If you're going to class, going to the gym, or just chilling, put your headphones in and let's be sociology geeks together, eh? Hello and welcome to the Sociology Show podcast. This is a student takeover episode, and the takeover is actually from some of my own students from BHASVIC College in Brighton and Hove down on the south coast of England. And three of my students were very interested in sexism in video games and misogyny in video games. They were inspired by some research by Anita Sarkeesian, and they wanted to carry out their own research to see if they found similar findings in terms of how much misogyny is out there, how sexist the video games are, and the types of language and interactions people use when they're playing online video games in particular. So the three students who conducted this research are Harper Winslet, Jessica Thornton and Leila Miller-Jones. I asked them to put together a podcast. I was really impressed with the depth and knowledge here, and also they had a little bit of humour in there as well. And it's a really fantastic piece of research. So without further ado, let's go over to listen to Sexism in Video Games with Harper, Jessica and Leila. Enjoy.
Hello.
Oh my god, hey.
Hi. So, I'm Harper.
I'm Jess.
I am Leila. And this is our sociology presentation in the form of a podcast.
Yeah, we contemplated doing a video, but I came
bothered.
fresh from the beach, and obviously I'm not looking my finest self.
Don't lie to yourself, Harper.
Oh.
You're looking gorgeous.
Aww.
Absolutely gorgeous.
Stop. So basically we are using the secondary data from Sarkeesian,
Good.
right? Oh my god, I'm so sorry. We are looking at the culture of online gaming and the portrayal of femininity and masculinity in the video game world.
Boom. We basically use this to form our research question, which is how are regressive misogynistic values presented in the gaming world?
Yeah.
I guess our hypothesis was kind of that misogynistic attitudes were still very present in the gaming world, as they have always been. And we're kind of, I guess, not even trying to prove it, but
just seeing to what extent
Exactly, to what extent that is. Look at you go, Harper.
Me and Jess both looked at some articles and videos that Sarkeesian did, and mine was about tropes versus women in video games, and she pointed out, which I thought was actually it sort of shows it traces back to where the first signs of objectification of women was when the first video game appeared in a pinball arcade, and it's called Computer Space. Was released in 1971, I believe.
I think that's what you said last time.
Yeah. Oh, let's hope so. The objective of the game was very simple. It was a rocket that was shooting down pixelated sources, so obviously nothing to do with women at this stage of video games.
Yeah, exactly.
However, the company advertised their game with women stood next to the arcade machines wearing revealing clothes, which obviously is seems to be the first way that women were.
Yeah, especially that seeing as it was the first online game, it was already using women's women being sexualized to advertise it,
and it was sort of unnecessary because it's got nothing to do with the game. It just seemed to, obviously the aim was to capture the male gaze, particularly probably young teenage boys. So
I wonder if that kind of maybe influenced the idea that online gaming is more of a male space than a female space. Idea, maybe.
Yeah, definitely. And that's and obviously this game being released over 50 years ago now. It
stems from right at the start. Basically, the traditional values have just been kept and carried through to today.
Yeah, no, exactly. So I guess that's what why we became interested, was because you can obviously clearly tell that this hasn't, although it might have changed based on video games evolving, the principles are still the same that are behind it. So
and as well, because this topic was influenced by our topic 3 of globalization.
Yeah,
it's interesting to see what other aspects of globalization can also be seen, like, the misogynistic attitudes kind of
in the digital, like,
embedded in the foundation.
Yeah, definitely. Because it's quite, like, I mean, I wouldn't say it's subtle, but, like, until you, like, sort of scrape underneath the surface, you don't really notice how bad it is. I feel like it's quite overlooked sometimes.
I think it's very overlooked.
But yeah. So should we get on to what we did for our...
Yes, have you guys overviewed the research by Sarkeesian?
Yeah.
Okay, so I looked at basically more recent examples. Sarkeesian basically found that the damsel in distress trope has sort of seen a resurgence in recent years. So the trope basically provides like an easy default motivation for male heroes, because it allows them to like prove their masculinity. And like as a result, the game developers have like exploited images of victimized women and used their trauma sort of as like a catalyst for the game's plotline, with even like domestic violence sometimes being presented as like an altruistic act. And it can be seen in like modern games like Call of Duty and Grand Theft Auto.
Oh yeah, that was one of the ones that we did. So I think it was either released in 2013 or like made in 2013. But basically, Sarkeesian said that the objective of this game was to buy a prostitute, use it, and then kill them to claim your money, which I think is obviously highly unethical.
Fun. Love that.
Yeah. I mean, I don't particularly understand it, but
No, I mean
whatever.
That's what I do on my,
boats.
that's what I do on my Friday evenings, Harper. So.
Oh, okay, my bad. Sorry.
Please don't insult my lifestyle.
Yeah, sorry. It's the lifestyle, definitely.
So I didn't, because the two girls, Harper just obviously did their initial research on Sarkeesian, who was a secondary data. I did the unstructured interview, which was
Primary.
our main primary research that we did.
Yeah.
Well, we say it was like semi-structured. We had like questions.
Oh yeah. So 100% was semi-structured.
Yeah.
Which we enjoyed because sorry, there's someone sneezing in the background
so loud.
or barking.
I mean, yeah.
Undecided, but it allowed us to elaborate with the participants and get them to explain what we asked, and also because not a lot of us, I didn't have the biggest understanding of online gaming, so it kind of let me.
Went in.
We went in
blind.
I think the bit we were interested in was the gender identity and that kind of misogynistic attitudes and But the idea of the whole gaming world, really, I let the gamers and the people that we interviewed dictate or like open my eyes to that, I guess. So our sample was 10 people. They were a volunteer sample because we needed people who were actually interested in online gaming who could give us useful information.
I guess that makes it quite high in validity, I guess, if they wanted to.
Yeah, exactly. And it meant that what they were saying was pretty truthful. And it wasn't just like a bunch of people who didn't know what they were talking about. But
and also ethical as well.
Yes. So with 10 questions,
Definitely.
10 people. And...
nice even numbers.
Yeah, exactly. I'll summarise a couple of points.
Yes.
I guess I've put together, or I've basically just kind of selected the two most different interviews, or the two most interesting interviews. So the first person, we asked the question, do you think that anonymity makes people feel more comfortable and to say things deemed offensive? We can't say it because anonymity, ethics.
Yeah.
We're so ethical.
Can we say if it's a girl or a boy? Or
I think it was a guy.
Okay.
And he said that playing on FIFA, specifically, there was a lot of toxic masculinity within the community, which you could argue would scare away women, although there has been like a new adaptation in the FIFA world, which is very nice, where women are now added and you can create a team of both women and men.
I've actually got something.
Oh my gosh.
Do you remember me telling you about this?
Oh my god, but I do remember this. Wait, shall I finish this up?
Oh yeah, of course.
No, I mean just this point. So he said there was lots of masculinity expressed within FIFA, partly because of how competitive it was, partly because it had like a nature of toxic masculinity. But I feel like if like that's such a good example of there are games which literally have toxic masculinity embedded into the culture. Like I've never met a girl who's like, oh yeah, I'm an avid FIFA player. I've only ever met guys,
because it doesn't seem very
so I thought that was quite eye-opening. But oh my god, my computer just died.
Oh no, what I was gonna say was, so I was talking to I'm quite ashamed to say that he's my friend now, but I was talking to my good friend.
Your good friend.
My good friend as well, I know. And I was like, I'm not really conducting, but I was just wondering if I could ask you some questions to do with gaming, because he games a lot, and he said that the presence of women in FIFA is pointless, and he said some other stuff as well. I wish it was on Snapchat, so I should have saved the messages. Actually, that would have been where the smart money lies. But to summarise what he said, and I'm not obviously quoting him, but he said along the lines of there's no point in having women in video games because they're doing it on purpose to seem more inclusive, whereas in actual fact they don't actually care. Sort of thing.
That directly links onto what I was about to say.
Well, perfect.
Oh my god,
Off you go, Leila.
So the fifth question that I asked in this interview was, why do you think there's an absence of female players in the gaming world? And this guy, the first of the 2 people that I selected out of the 10, basically said that big gaming companies don't market towards female players because there's already a market and an audience within young male players. There's no reason they would need to. And because so much of advertisement is kind of towards the male gaze anyways.
Do you think they feel under pressure to...
I feel they don't feel any pressure to... I feel that he just basically said they don't market towards female players because...
They've got a large amount of audience.
They don't need to, pretty much.
Yeah.
And he also said that along the lines of... I asked a question which was, do you think the video games influence perceptions of women in real life? And he basically said his friend didn't really seem to have a separation of online and in real life, so he would sexualize women a lot because on so many of the games there are hypersexualized women avatars.
Do you think that links to the idea of anonymity? Is that how anonymity?
I think so.
I guess because some people will say stuff online and not say it in person, whereas clearly this person, his friend, can tell the difference. It's that
exactly, and it's kind of all linking back to the sexual avatars and everything, from the first...
Sarkeesian.
Yeah.
Sarkeesian.
No, Sarkeesian, honey.
Sarkeesian. Sorry. For some reason I just had it in my head that it was that, and now I can't break out the habit. But...
You're going to have to.
Thank you. What was the other... what was some of the other stuff that was said?
The second guy who I selected... I was starstruck. I love him. I don't know actually quite who he is, but I just think he's awesome. He is part of an online group who go to gaming tournaments and play amongst each other and have a following.
Formal sort of thing.
I think so.
That's quite cool
actually
though.
Professional.
Or
you can win money and stuff, can't you?
I think you win something, or maybe you just win and that boosts your popularity. Don't quite know, but it's fine. But basically, he was really interesting to talk to because his perspective was from his small community. So it kind of showed that there were zones within the gaming world. So he basically said that on his team, it was just people who he played against who were just decent at the game. And regarding anonymity, he said you can say whatever you want in theory. He said, being a white straight dude, it's not the biggest deal to me personally. It's what are they going to threaten me with? So I'm quoting him directly here. But, with other demographics, I've seen it could be tough. People just relentlessly gang up on people for the smallest things because they know they can get away with it. And I think
this links onto the sort of stuff that I did for my research.
Exactly. It's the real risk of anonymity is that you don't really get many consequences for what you say.
Yeah.
Unless
it's bad. It is quite bad that you can't well, I mean, you could track it down, but if you were tracking every cyber bully online,
there'd be no one left.
And
in the
also
market.
with that,
that's quite true.
With the anonymous space, it makes people then more comfortable to say things in real life as well because they've had that experience of already
getting away with
saying it and starting to move into that territory.
Or it's kind of an echo chamber, where if you find like-minded people, you think, that might be that could translate to real life.
And narrows that worldview.
Not exactly.
That's very true. It's not good. That's the best adjective I could come up with.
I love it.
That's really sums it all up.
I love it.
I sound so monotonal as well when I said that.
100.
It's not good.
It's just not good.
But what did the other person that you spoke to say? Was it a girl that was?
Yeah, so I've selected 3. So there was the first guy who had the toxic masculinity friend. Second guy was part of a team.
Yeah.
He also, for my 7th question, which was, do you see positive aspects of gender identity? He said that the fact that people weren't focalizing on gender was the positive aspect of gender identity. Like,
That's
it was like there was a lot of, like, in his world, a lot of it was skill based. So it kind of took the whole emphasis of gender off of it, which he thought was a really positive and progressive thing.
Wasn't it? It was either Haraway or Robertson that did that in the globalization unit. They talked about transcending gender identity.
That was Haraway.
Haraway. Yeah. Which I guess is a positive you could take away, but then it's not like that alone is going to, you know, it doesn't change the fact that people are still going to be like sorry, a pip just came out of my mouth. Sorry, Leila.
What were you saying?
It's like, oh, you know what? I've lost my train of thought.
Oh my God.
Like, you know what? So, let me just go right back to the beginning. Let's cut to the chase here. So, basically, what I am trying to conclude is that although a woman can hide behind, obviously, the screen and have, like, a gender-neutral name or, like, a name that doesn't suggest anything about her gender, she might still hear stuff. So it shows that, you know, you can not partake in it and, like, not have to show that you're a woman, but if there's men online playing and they're being, you know, misogynistic, then it's still happening, basically.
And the fact that they have to hide it as well just goes to show.
Yes, that's
like,
exactly. So someone who I've not included their interview in my 3 chosen ones, she spoke about the fact that on the online gaming world, if you do show a gender as a girl, you're either like a tomboy girl who doesn't really associate herself with femininity, or an e-girl who's hyper feminine, and there's not really much in between.
There's
so
not
you
just
either
like going on to enjoy
you're
it.
one of the guys, or you're appealing to male gaze, and so it's kind of like how you benefit men versus how it's like benefiting yourself.
Exactly. So like, you know, you've now got these 2 categories that, you know, you can't like transcend them. You're either one or the other.
Yeah, you can game, but if you're a tomboy and one of the guys or an e-girl,
and either way, you're still going to face abuse for both of them.
Exactly.
Anyway.
Yeah, no, so for my third participant, or I guess interviewee, they said that, so I asked the question, do you think there's an absence of female players in the gaming world? And their answer to this was, I think some games are more predominantly female, but for predominantly male games, they don't want female players in them, so they try to berate them, so they don't play, so that they therefore create female zones and male zones, which I thought was a really interesting way of putting it.
That is,
of like, people in each zone are not going to recognise the opposite side, or maybe in the male zone you're just going to think, oh, no female plays this game, because they're actively avoiding all the really aggressive misogynistic games.
Also,
they're in like a tight sort of circle.
If you're thinking about like regressive values and going back to traditional ways, sort of the separate spheres for men and women, it's kind of like reminiscent of like 1950s, like, oh my god, domestic sphere and like
canon design, domestic sphere and social sphere.
Oh, look at you guys, English students.
Oh my gosh, right.
Do you have what else? Like,
I have 2 more points.
Okay, yeah.
So for the 8th question I asked, I think, I asked this to everyone, and most people said. So I said, what do you think the roles of men and women are or should be in the online gaming world? Most people just said equity. Everyone should just be equal. There shouldn't be a kind of there shouldn't just be this
disproportionate.
Exactly, that's what I'm looking for. But my interview said everyone should get a chance to play the game they want, and that female players should get to enjoy a male space, whereas right now she does not feel there was that kind of equality, which I thought was really interesting, especially from a female's perspective, because the other people were kind of like, equity 100%, and didn't really see, like, they didn't point out as much misogynistic attitudes, although they were occupying male spaces, whereas I feel if you're not, it's more visible.
Yeah.
And relating to the, what was it, recessive or regressive?
Regressive.
So for my last question that I asked everyone, I asked, how do you think that the rise of Andrew Tate has influenced attitudes in the gaming world?
Yeah.
And so the first person I asked said, because Tate is influencing younger people and younger people still play video games, it therefore makes the online world even more toxic and could discourage women. The second person I asked actually said Andrew Tate is just an anomaly. There we go. And he has an impact on younger people who he didn't play with. so my second person, he was part of the online gaming team.
Oh yeah.
So he, I don't think, spoke to or kind of came into contact with a lot of younger players. So it proves that what side of the online gaming world you occupy.
That's true.
And my last participant, who was a girl, I thought I'd put that out there, she said that she felt that Tate had a bigger impact in real life than the gaming world.
I think
and
that's
said
probably true as well.
she said there have always been misogynistic attitudes, but she argued that like Tate's kind of being on the side of social media of pointing out like that his actions were wrong. Yeah. She basically said that ever since, because he's so extreme, people began calling out misogynistic behaviour, which she said like that's a real big positive.
That can be seen as positive.
Of what you said. Shall I go through my what's called Grover now?
Yeah.
I said that my generalizability was lower because we only interviewed a small age range. However, the people that we interviewed had kind of played amongst people of many different age ranges. So although we only had access to people within the 16 to 18 age range, because they'd interacted with people from like all ages, you could kind of argue that their answers could be higher in generalizability.
Yeah.
I argue. Our representativeness was low because our sample was volunteer.
Yeah.
A volunteer sample.
But that also
then we
makes
wanted
it more
to be,
ethical
yeah,
as well,
we
doesn't
wanted
it?
it to be that they wanted to do it, therefore we're going to be enthusiastic.
Yes, exactly. We had a range of gender identities, which I think argues higher. Reliability was higher because I recorded all of the interviews so he could replicate it, and I wrote down all of my questions. Objectivity, I was reflected throughout and transcribed directly from the audio document onto my piece of paper, I guess. So like, I'm referring back exactly what they said and didn't cherry pick. Validity was high, bill report, and I feel that what they told us was truthful.
I think it was very insightful, especially since we didn't going into this. I think that also makes it quite high in objectivity because we didn't know like what was actually going on, what was actually happening. Like our values we didn't have like set values.
Our values.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
because we didn't have any.
So we learned quite a lot during it, which I think was quite interesting.
I learned a lot, which was so good.
Yeah,
I loved it, and our ethics were high. No deception, because I advertised who would like to be interviewed for our sociology volunteer. We didn't cause anyone harm, as far as I'm aware. No one has emailed me like saying that I'm suing you, so that's great. And it wasn't an invasion of privacy because they signed up for it.
Yeah.
So I
think that in terms ethics was probably what was very high, and
I think
so was validity.
All of ours, validity.
Which one would you want to improve out of the Grover terms, do you think?
I think if we were to do it again, the generalizability and representativeness, it would be so interesting to interview a wider range of people.
Yeah, definitely.
I think even for us, a study in the future, but also just for us.
Just for us.
To do it again.
For us. Okay, so after Leila did her main primary research, which was sort of like the body of our like what we wanted to find out, and like I guess that I did like really go in depth about the progressive misogynistic values. I decided to do some content analysis on TikTok. And Jess, what did you do?
Well, I sort of did. I was originally going to do participant observation, but that plan kind of fell through.
It fell through 100%.
So I did sort of an unstructured interview, conversational type thing.
Yeah.
With my stepbrother. He's like very into the gaming world, and he's 12. And he's very like immersed in the world of online gaming, and he's experienced a lot of the like misogyny that we've been talking about, and I
think it's a really interesting angle to take it from, because obviously
he's 12 years old.
He's 12. A lot of like, even if you go on to like the interweb and look at social media of like clips of people gaming, even a lot of them are like older people. So I think from like a younger person's perspective, who's kind of views are being shaped
not to
by
the media. I don't want to talk about it rather like that, but do you think that like perhaps online gaming will sort of shape perspectives that he has on women and stuff like
100%. I think it's really dangerous and really scary actually, but
I decided to do content analysis on TikTok because TikTok was the platform that amplified Andrew Tate's sort of presence in society, which obviously for a couple of months, maybe a couple of weeks, months gained a lot of of media attention. Obviously he's and then that means that his arrest and stuff was very publified. But what I decided to do was look in to female gamers on TikTok by literally just typing that into the search box to see what came up. And the first 3 relevant videos were the ones where it was like female gamers were sat with their like headsets on and whatever, and they were all like, I think 2 of the videos where the woman started talking, obviously for the first time in this game, and there had been a group of men, and it was both, and in both videos it showed the responses of the men, which were obviously not very nice. And then the other one was just a girl sat down gaming, just talking behind like what she was doing. And I decided to use, for each of the videos, I scrolled through the first 20 comments, and from there I picked out which ones seemed like negative, misogynistically like driven effectively, and then I put it into the statistic that 1 out of 6 of the comments that I read were misogynistically motivated, which obviously is, you know, even though the majority seemed not.
And it's out of the top 20 as well, so those are like the most liked and the most seen by people.
Definitely. So I think even though, you know, a majority, at 1/6 is not obviously a big sort of.
I don't know if you kept scrolling and
then more would come up. Like, it would be hundreds and hundreds of comments.
And like I said, it's like who has interacted with that.
Yeah, exactly.
What's boosted up to the top.
People that have liked it, like replied to those comments. I didn't go through all the replies and stuff because that would take a whole lot longer. But
you would not be here.
I would not be here to tell the tale. But yeah, so even though bits like even though most of the comments were supportive, it's almost like, you know, the fact that there were comments carrying these like attitudes.
1/6 is quite a lot.
1/6 is a lot, to be fair, but obviously it's way under half. But I think that the fact that there were sexist attitudes just present anyway should not be like deemed like sort of an anomaly. I think it should be, you know, this minority group of people who were being misogynistic, they need to be addressed and obviously educated about it. But I'm going to quickly read out a few of the stuff that a couple of the comments that I noted down, which was for context, obviously this was on the video of a female gamer who posted the video of the boys behaving sexistly towards her. So first comment that I saw was, quite proud of that community even though I'm not part of it, which I thought was a bit of a mixed message, but it just seemed
I'm not part of the misogynists, but I'm very proud of the misogynists.
Yeah, you know what, good for them.
It's like, I don't.
Himself. Yeah, exactly. The boy's trying to make it out that he's, I don't know, not a misogynist, but I think that's, you know. Then the next one just said, my boys. We've got W homie, which just means like they're supporting what this quote unquote homie said. Then we've got W players. Then we've got classic, we've got real Sigma. That's why we love CS, which I think was the name of the game or like the platform or whatever that they were on. W community. And this one I thought was particularly interesting because it was quite invalidating, but it said it's like this for everybody, not just for you. So I thought that was, you know.
Well, yeah, that's from like a female player.
Yeah, which
also shows that misogynistic attitudes are still very rife within the gaming community. Or it's from someone who also has experienced abuse, which would mean there's other demographics who are also experiencing abuse.
So either way, it's got different connotations, both of which are bad.
Either way, it's not good.
And then the last one was pick me. So effectively, that's feeding back into what you said about a girl being like one of the girls' boys sort of thing. So yeah, you can't play without being deemed, you know, not a girl, basically.
Yeah, or hypersexualized.
Exactly. And I just thought, you know, it's very apparent that it's happening, and I think also the fact that people are, you know, commenting the stuff, it means that they're like happy to publicly share their opinions. So even like, and then also I'd say that it's like, it means that for the people that choose not to comment, how many of these people are carrying the same views and just don't comment. So for the small group of people that do comment it and do share opinions, you know, there's like a whole majority of other people who have the same opinions but haven't, you know,
kind of shows how the lines between like the online world and reality start to become blurred, because they're now saying that publicly and it's no longer anonymous.
Because also the usernames were like people's full names as well. I mean, I didn't write down the names, but because I wouldn't share it, I got to stick to the ethics.
Exactly, honey.
But I mean,
but you can find out a lot about people just by their usernames. And
also, I think as well, like, although to remain ethical, we didn't name names. I think that it technically shouldn't, like, it's not really in uninformed consent or whatever. Like,
it's not necessarily
if they're posting it
because it's
publicly,
public already,
then they're happy for people to see it and share it anyway, surely.
Yeah.
Like, clearly they, like, I mean, maybe they only have subconsciously thought about it, but, like, you know, when you go to comment something, you read
it's
it
out there for everybody to see.
Yeah,
exactly.
And there's, like, digital footprint, all of that stuff, which, you know, so
I'd argue we didn't cross any ethical boundaries.
I don't think we crossed ethical boundaries. I mean, it wasn't an invasion of privacy whatsoever. Informed consent, I mean, we're sharing their comments that they've shared to a whole platform of, like, people, potentially millions of people.
Yeah.
Billions even on TikTok.
I mean, billions on TikTok,
yeah.
And then, wasn't deceptive, and no harm to the participants because we haven't named them. And then, about the other graver terms, I said that it was low in reliability. Don't worry, I've got it here.
Oh my God,
don't you worry.
You are.
Because the nature of TikTok is that there's constant updates and, like, changes in the algorithm system, which means that if another sociologist was to carry it out on their own device and search the exact same thing that I searched into the search bar, they probably wouldn't be able to find the exact same videos with the exact same comments at the top.
Exactly.
I also said that in terms of objectivity, my opinions didn't influence, like, you know,
the results that you
results, because I literally copied
as well.
I literally copied and pasted what was said. You know, there was no. I mean, obviously, I just picked out the comments that seemed to show.
But it was all from the top 20.
All was from the top 20, and then validity. I said that it's not exactly high in validity because if everyone commented their opinions, then it would be truthful.
Yeah.
But because this is only, you know, a small group of people that are commenting their opinions, it's quite difficult to understand everybody's, like, reflective of that and stuff. And then in terms of, like, generalisability and representativeness, wasn't overly, but I think in comparison to using qualitative data, obviously I did get a bigger.
Yeah.
I got, you know, 60 people, presumably 60 different people as well. I'm pretty sure I didn't see any repeated names. So
exactly.
60 different people's opinions seems, you know, it shows patterns.
That's a lot more like what.
Patterns and trends there.
Exactly. Patterns and trends.
Oh, we love patterns and trends.
Yeah, and it's kind of like you can do all your research into these are the statistics of this and that, but you've got people in real life actively being misogynistic and going out of their way to do so.
Yeah.
And then have pulled up, like, an average of that.
Yeah, which is, so I think, the statistics, I guess, show that
statistics don't lie.
They do not lie. But linking back to the whole thing about how this could be influenced by Andrew Tate was these videos were, when I looked at the dates, they were all within the last, I want to say 6 months. It was like 5 or 6 months. It was since the beginning of this year, definitely.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I don't know if that's reflective of Andrew Tate's being in the picture, having his values, like, posted online or whatever, but, I mean, it could be.
It's so hard to, like, tell if it was or wasn't. Like, it's like, because it was all on social media, all of social media is intertwined anyways.
Yeah.
Like, I guess you can think of different communities not kind of accessing the same kind of information, not infiltrating it. It's nice to think that something on social media would not infiltrate the online world, but you just don't know.
Exactly. So it is hard to tell, but I mean, we could potentially put it out there that Andrew Tate had influenced maybe one of these comments at least.
Exactly.
But and then you spoke quite a lot about Andrew Tate with your brother.
Okay, so that kind of links to the sort of, like, unstructured interview / conversation I had with my brother. So he's only 12, as mentioned before, and he was, like, very involved in the online gaming world, specifically when Andrew Tate was popular. And he noticed, like, a significant, like, almost like a direct correlation between Andrew Tate's popularity and how much misogyny was present, sort of online, I mean, on chats, kind of with strangers, but also perhaps amongst his friend group as well.
It was very topical, and obviously particularly in the online gaming world.
Yeah, 100%. So basically what he was saying was that there was some, like, quite a lot of casual, like, traditional misogyny present, such as comments like, you know, make me a sandwich, or, like, go back to the kitchen, like, not even casual, actually.
That's just quite sexist.
Sexist.
Quite sexist.
Blatantly sexist comments.
Yeah, I guess, like, non-original
used in a
statements.
casual setting, but not casual.
Yeah.
But then it also got more extreme, not amongst his friends, but amongst strangers. He even heard some, like, threats of sexual harassment, which obviously for a 12-year-old boy, that is very influential.
Exposed to as well.
I mean, it's quite interesting if you think about. It links back to the first guy that I interviewed. He was talking about he got into gaming when he was like 7 or 8.
Yeah.
And so it's so interesting. It was, I think, brought up a lot on social media when the downside of Andrew Tate was that a lot of his following was young men.
Yeah.
And they're so influential that it's so interesting that your brother.
Yeah.
It's good that he was able to recognise that's misogynistic, that's wrong.
At first, obviously,
he
didn't.
weren't you?
So it did definitely have an impression on him. He essentially, on his algorithm on his TikTok view page, was obviously very different to what people like us would have been. And the clips he was seeing of Andrew Tate were more kind of like, started off as like motivational content, trying to like inspire young boys. Obviously, that was masked.
To be like good.
Masking something very bad.
Yeah.
But he saw it as kind of motivational, and he saw stuff about Andrew Tate donating to charities.
Yeah,
I'm pretty
it's
sure.
so easy to like manipulate certain facts, because you could say that anyone has done, any like bad person has done a good thing, and they can just like over amplify this good deed and completely like block out all the bad stuff. Because you were saying about how like, you know, obviously the motivational stuff is like he's telling them not to smoke, not to vape, like stuff like this, which seems on surface level, you know, seems to come from a good perspective.
And it seems quite innocent as well. That's the kind of stuff that you would get taught in schools.
Yeah, exactly.
So it
seems
like quite
authentic as well.
Yeah, and kind of almost a bit paternalistic.
Yeah,
that's actually
like
very...
almost like a father figure for a lot of young boys, which kind of and then as the misogyny starts to slip in, he might get like the occasional video with a casual throwaway comment, but he wasn't getting the serious, like harmful misogynistic videos that I would have been seeing, or Harper or Leila. So it kind of began to influence his mindset. I mean, probably to the point where he was saying misogynistic things. I mean, obviously it's hard for me to know.
Yeah, and it doesn't make him necessarily the bad person, because this is what he's, you know, been prone to.
And that kind of shows how much of an impression the media can have, and like obviously with the globalization topic, like how much media is having an impact on identity and relationships now.
Yeah, definitely.
Especially when they're growing up on this
in a generation,
in this space.
And it kind of goes back to what I was saying, like you can create your own echo chamber. You are inherently on your For You page and on your algorithm.
Yeah.
Curating an echo chamber for yourself.
Andrew Tate is essentially like gaining the trust of young boys, and then I mean, my brother said that ultimately he had to, like, part of the reason he started gaming less and moving to other games, not Fortnite, because this was mostly prevalent on games such as Fortnite, which obviously a much younger audience.
That's a much younger audience.
Which is probably why you were saying from a lot of your interviewees that they weren't really experiencing it as much, because they're older.
It was on a different platform, so there was like FIFA and Call of Duty and stuff. Yeah. One that a lot of people reference.
And they're obviously a lot less impressionable than like a group of 12-year-olds.
Yeah.
So he kind of like distanced himself from that, but it really shows how
I think
it can have a massive impact.
Yeah, definitely. And like also like the whole thing about him like creating, I don't really know the ins and outs, but like that Hustlers University thing that he like made. Have you heard about that?
I remember hearing about it, but not
I mean, I know someone who, I mean, I don't know them well enough, but I know someone who dropped out of the college they went to and joined the Hustlers University. I don't know where they are now. I haven't had contact with them in a very long
joined
time.
Andrew Tate's University.
And it just shows how like impressionable this person is, because he's gained their trust, basically got them under his wing, and sort of can manipulate his ideologies into their everyday values. I mean, it's not all, you know, some people can distinguish the difference between, you know.
Well, like you were saying, it just depends what your algorithm's feeding you.
Yeah, definitely.
And in relating it to like also video games as well, like it just shows how kind of blurred the online world is, and like I don't really know.
It's quite easy
to
slip in. No, you're going on the right lines, because it's so easy to slip in like casual sexism if you see someone doing it and getting this massive like following from it, and like people not even well, people obviously definitely batting an eye, but like their following's still ridiculously like overwhelming.
I think it's like the idea of even online you can penetrate like stereotypes and stuff. I remember one of the interviewees was talking about if you're revealed to be a girl on like a male only or like a predominantly male game, you're presumed to be bad at the game, or like
or they just don't want you.
Or like a common insult is like, oh, you're playing like a woman.
Yeah,
so it's kind of like those ideals stem either from people's real life onto the online world, or those views on the online world penetrate into real life.
I feel like that quote about like playing like a woman, it's like goes way back, like decades ago. When, you know, it can be like if a woman's playing a sport, oh, you're playing like a girl, throwing like a girl, stuff like that. So it just shows how like interconnected past the way women were treated in the past in like other activities, and then into this like globalized, like modernized present world of where video games are heavily used. So it just shows that it is regressive,
and
definitely.
It also maybe provides like, for young boys, obviously the online gaming community can provide a sense of safety and security, and maybe those regressive and traditional values provide that security in a sense of like,
that's true,
they feel
connected to like, it's just some, I mean, I am like, it's like, that's, I can't remember what sociologist said it, but I'm going off on a tangent, but about religion, people connect to traditional values because it makes them just feel safe rather than
Bruce.
Thinking about it.
That's what I'm trying to get at.
That's a really good point, actually. I think that's, I feel like we need to wrap this up soon.
I think we're going to be here another hour.
Yeah, no, I know. To be fair, I actually could talk about this for ages.
I
but
so should.
Should we like, I don't know, should we make a summary?
Should I go through like the Grover terms?
Yeah.
No, obviously it was very unstructured, so, but I'd say that the main term that this focused on is raising validity, because obviously I built a close rapport, like
he seemed to trust you as well.
He trusted. He was very
trusting,
and he was very open and honest, and it was kind of like self-reflection. Like,
that probably was quite like, not just for like you, but probably quite insightful for him to hear himself.
Yeah, definitely. But then obviously generalizability is probably quite low. I guess you could say it's generalizable in the sense that it focuses on a younger audience, whereas a lot of yours were older audience. You can kind of expand it to different age groups. But yeah, I guess it wasn't particularly objective. It was kind of just more of an open discussion. So not particularly reliable, but definitely like valid insight.
I think, and also the validity like is really important, I guess, because I guess like, I mean, with mine, I've just got a statistic, but because I don't know the people in the comments, I can't question them about it further. I can't ask what made them say that, what led them to this, like all of that. Whereas I feel like you've got a very insightful like piece of information from him.
Yeah,
I think it's very interesting to be fair.
I think
it's
like a really nice comparison to what all of my interviewees said, and kind of the behaviour that Harper witnessed online. I think it really nicely rounds it up to kind of, you've got different age ranges, and it seems to be the same kind of
values carrying through the
values or behaviour being carried through no matter what age you are.
It's interesting to see how like in the future this will like progress, or like what will, or regress even. Like
I mean, hopefully regression. The last interviewee I interviewed and have included in this study said that she felt that Tate's rise meant that people were calling out misogyny, because it's kind of like, with his new conviction, you can see how
it turns out for people like him,
and how deep rooted misogyny can be.
So
it kind of influences people to call out sexist attitudes and sexist behaviour, which is really good.
It's definitely good,
but you can't ignore the fact that it could also encourage it.
Yeah, exactly. And like, if you want like to be able to change so many people's opinions, then everyone has to voice their opinion. Because if you get one comment like on TikTok saying like the first comment say on a video being sexist, you then get a stream of comments after that, and that just like fuels the people's beliefs and stuff. But yeah, I'd say I've said all I need to say.
Yeah, so should we... So what was our initial question?
Our initial question was how are regressive misogynistic values presented in the gaming world? And I think that they are presented, like... I would say that over time, although the way that people may have come about saying these things has changed, obviously, in the 1950s or 70s...
People weren't commenting on TikToks.
You weren't commenting on TikToks, but maybe you were like... When you found out that this space game that was released in 1971 was released, you might, I don't know, throw in the casual, she's got nice boobs or something, I don't know.
Yeah, like the locker room chat.
Exactly.
No, I like you gave us like an example.
Yeah. I don't know if that...
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm allowed to say that.
I reckon
Oh well.
Oh,
I'm surprised I haven't sworn for 40 minutes.
I'm so proud of you.
Thank you. Sorry, that makes me sound like I've got like a terrible, like, I've got a really bad range of like vocabulary. No, I just like, I don't know, I've actually exposed myself a bit too much. Anyway.
I feel like the way that, the way that regressive misogynistic values are presented, I feel like it really, from what I found out, it depends of what sphere you're in the online world, which has got some hope that you may just not encounter it at all, but that could mean you just get really lucky and get into a really nice world, or that you've chosen, I'm not going to go there because that's really misogynistic, I'm going to limit myself to this space.
Yeah.
So I do not have to endure sexism on the daily or every single time I play. So I feel like you can actively remove yourself from those situations, but I would also argue that it's still very prominent.
Easy to become involved and easy to gradually kind of slip into that world.
Exactly.
As seen with many young gamers.
I think the perception that, you know, there's no misogyny or it's not really that bad in online gaming is...
it's incorrect.
It's incorrect. It's a flawed point of view.
Yeah, definitely.
I think
It's
a limited
an
perception.
it's a very limited perception.
Yeah. Exactly. And I guess you could
Sorry,
say...
there's like literal, like if there's a full party going on,
it's
fine.
It's okay. It's giving us a little morale boost for this like last leg of the podcast. But I mean, I guess you could say that we're being like, we could be seen as objective because we're all women, teenage like girls. But I mean, from our point of view, if we're seeing sexism in society, then it's obviously an issue, even if it's like a minority of people showing sexist attitudes, it's still very much present.
That's still an issue.
It's still an issue, no matter how small.
Yeah. Jessica, what do you think?
I mean, yeah, I agree with everything that's been said. I think the idea of kind of maybe some of your interviewees maybe avoiding the misogyny, but then also by just saying that, I think these values should be equal, it's kind of taking an attitude of avoidance to the issue of feminism and misogyny and not really actually taking a reflective view of what's actually going on.
Exactly. They're playing riddle kicks.
I have no idea.
Oh,
there's someone yelling.
There is some. Okay,
we may need to pause this.
Okay, you know what? I think we could say we should leave it at that.
Yeah, we should leave it at that.
I remember when me and Jess were walking off, I was like, it'll be like 10 minutes long, won't it? Like roughly 10 minutes. 50 minutes later.
I mean, no, because we also like took a break and also I didn't say
Matthew's going to be like listening to this whole like the sped up version.
You know what?
Poor Matthew. 2 times version.
We're very interesting people.
Hopefully he listens to
Hopefully you enjoyed.
Yeah, if you got this far, then thank you so much for listening.
And I hope you enjoyed our research and found it interesting and insightful.
Oh, Jinx. Great minds think alike.
Right.
Anyway, see you later.
Thank you for listening.
Thank you for listening.
Bye.
If you are a regular listener to the Sociology Show, then you could help with the costs of promoting and hosting the podcast. If you can spare even a small amount, then you can donate on the GoFundMe.com website by searching for The Sociology Show. There is no obligation, of course, and all future downloads will continue to be free. A huge thank you to all those that have already donated. Your kind gesture will help to continue keep the show going and growing. Best wishes and keep enjoying the show.
Thank you for taking the time to listen to the podcast. If you would like to contact the show or be interviewed, then please email the sociologyshowpodcast@gmail.com.